Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. Not very many people in class right now, so we'll maybe give everyone a second to get organized. I'm trying to load an exam right now. Takes a second. If we can start with some green check marks, make sure everybody's with me, and then we'll get started. I've got one. That's a start. 2. Okay, we're getting there. I know Mrs. Wood asked you guys to come right into here instead of meeting in her blackboard, so I have a feeling a few of you might be in there. Good, green checks everywhere. We're doing an exam? I know. Why wouldn't we just jump right into an exam right after the break, you know? That's what I was thinking. What I wanted to do was kind of take a little, not a break, but I wanted you guys to kind of maybe change your thinking a little bit and get ready for this provincial exam that's coming up in about a month, which is lots of time. But I just wanted to talk about a bit about it today, and I would, just like to kind of set you guys out as to what's going to happen in the next few classes. Start looking at a little bit of exam review because we're pretty much ready to start doing that. And then we're going to finish off Unit 8, and then that's it. So we only have essentially 3 lessons left before we're done for the course. So I would like to get going. It looks like everybody's kind of give me a green check who's here, which is good. 9:03, so I might want to stall for another minute. Is Unit 8 hard? That's an interesting question. I don't really think it's that hard. It's kind of hit or miss. It's trigonometry, so sine, cosine, tangent ratios. And some people see it in grade 9 and some people haven't. It just depends who your grade 9 teacher is. So for some students, Unit 8 will be like easy. And for some students, Unit 8 will be, it'll be a bit of work. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm just gonna point out a few things in the course, and then we'll jump right into what I wanted to get to today. So at the very top of the course, got my other mouse hooked up here. You can see at the very top I put this little feedback questionnaire thing. It's like 10 questions or so, and I just wanted you guys to fill that out if you have some time. I would appreciate it. I know most of you have already, but if you haven't got to that yet, that would be awesome. The second thing I want to point out is this. I've put in a link to Practice Provincial Exams. So you can see Practice Provincial Exam website, click here. Now I think you might have already gone here for English possibly, but I just want to make you aware of the page and the process. So it's in, the link's in the course. You don't need to print anything right now. And if you click on the link, it takes you to the ministry website. Now, this website has all of the practice provincial exams for all of your courses that you're going to be taking. So right here where it says sample exams, so you're going to want to click on, and then it asks you what exam you want to load. So we're in grade 10, and we probably prefer English. You have to agree to the copyright terms, and then you go search. And then it asks you what course do you want to look at exams for. So we are in Foundations of Math Pre-Calculus, but if you wanted like an English 10 exam, you could select that, or Science 10 eventually. You could select that as well. So just for now, we're just going to look at the Foundations and Pre-Calculus exam. So this morning I loaded this first sample M into the course, which was a mistake because it was only part of an exam. The sample A and B, I'm going to look at sample A right now for a little while, and then sample B. These two are full exams. I'm thinking these M, N, R, and T are only parts of exams, so I never looked at them before. I'd only ever seen A and B. So if you click on sample exam A, it's going to load a full exam for you. So all of the exam is there. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the exam right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to just ask as I go, as always. But I'm going to jump over to OneNote here, and we're going to look at this exam. So we're not going to, spend our whole class looking at all the questions and things like that. I just want to go over what the exam looks like and what you guys should expect, and maybe some pointers and tips to kind of help you get through it. I'm confident you guys know the material well, so that's not my concern. What my concern is the exam can get a bit tricky sometimes. There's things you need to know, and I just wanted to go through that right now. So you guys are going to be writing an exam on a computer. So you'll have a laptop, you'll be in the gym at Central. I haven't got confirmation on the date yet, but once I do, I will be able to let you know. Abby's asking if we do well on the practice provincial, do you think we'll do well on the real exam? Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you know the material, you know it, and you'll do well. And I know all of you have made it this far through the course, so I don't have any concerns about you guys doing well on the exam. So you guys will do just fine. But I don't want you guys to get caught up in some of the tricks that the exam throws at you, because that can be half the battle, is not knowing the math, but knowing how to write the exam. So this is the exam. I'm just going to scroll through it real quick. You're going to show up at the gym at Central. There'll be laptops, kind of like the midterm exams we've been doing. You're going to sign in with your provincial education number, your PEN number. Somebody's going to check your ID to make sure it's you. I'm not allowed to be in there while you guys are writing the exam. So unfortunately, it won't be me, but there'll be a teacher, probably Mrs. Wood, maybe Mrs. Ward might be in the gym with you guys. There'll be some students from Central as well. Some of them are taking this course. Anyone who's taking this course online in the district, or anyone who lives locally who's taking online, will be doing it with you. Where do you find your PEN numbers? It's not that important because when you show up, before you get there, we've already kind of said you're going to be writing an exam, so they'll send an exam for you to the school. So you just need to sit down at a computer and then basically get logged in. So it takes a couple minutes to get you logged into the exam. So you don't need to really know anything. If you have a piece of ID like a driver's license or your student ID card, that's really helpful, just in case somebody who's in the gym doesn't know who you are. If Mrs. Wood will likely be there, but if you're there with one of our administrators, they've never seen you before, it's nice to have a piece of ID with you. You don't have to have it. It's not like you need to rush out and get one. If you don't, it's all good. We can figure out who you are, but it just makes the process easier. If you have a passport, that's fine. Your student ID card, if you picked one of those up, would be great. If you have a driver's license, care card, whatever you might have, you have it with you, perfect. If you don't have it, it's all good. We'll, what if it's, that happens from time to time, but you never know. So you guys will sit down. The way the exam is kind of broken up, there's 3 sections to it. And I'm just going to look at this first part right here. So this is what it's going to look like. Similar to this, it'll be an e-exam, so it'll be online. But you'll read the instructions. There'll be somebody that says, this is how the exam works. You're not allowed to have cell phones out. You can't transmit anything, blah, blah, blah. They'll go through the rules. So in general, for provincial exams, you have to stay there for 1 hour. So if your exam starts at 9 o'clock, you have to be in that room from 9 to 10. And they'll allow you to show up 30 minutes late. Anyone arrives after 9:30 won't be allowed in, assuming your exam starts at 9. You might have an afternoon exam at like 12 or 1, I forget when they start. So that's kind of the first thing. You must stay for an hour. You can see at let's find here, you can use a protractor and a ruler. You can use algebra tiles if you want. I don't know where they are, so don't plan on using those. You can use a calculator, and it says use the program value of pi. And I've mentioned this before. If you use 3.14 instead of pi, you're going to end up with answers that round, and you're not going to have the same answer as the book. Diagrams are not necessarily drawn to scale. It's not super important, but diagrams that are drawn to scale will say these are drawn to scale. And there's some data pages, which is your formula sheets, and you can just tear them right out and just have them on the side. You guys will have an e-exam, so I assume that we'll either print you one or there'll be a copy included online somewhere. And there you go. So there's some rules here. You can see, I think, Taylor, how long can we stay? You see the exam is kind of scheduled for 2 hours, so examination 2 hours, and then you get an additional 60 minutes of time. So what that means is when you sit down to write the exam, the people who have written the exam, created the exam, I should say, they've kind of scheduled it to take about 2 hours. And generally speaking, that's pretty accurate. The 60 additional minutes is just extra time. So the 2 hours really means nothing. You have 3 hours to write your exam. So they've kind of budgeted 2 hours of your time, and you get this additional hour. So if your exam starts at 9, you get 10, 11, 12. So you're done at 12. If you start at 1, you go till 4. So that's kind of what they've scheduled. At the 3 hour mark, it's not like, hey, I just got like 5 more questions to do, Mrs. Wood, can I just do them? No, she has to take your exam away. It's a provincial-wide exam. Everybody is given the same amount of time in the entire province to write it. So you should be aware of time, but you shouldn't be scared of time. It's just one of these things. Let's keep going through here. We have a blank page, and then this part A. So these are the 3 parts I mentioned. You can see at the top here, it says calculator not permitted. That means you can't use your calculator for this section. So suggested time 30 minutes, allowable time 40 minutes. You are going to sit down to write this exam, and for the first 40 minutes of your exam, your little calculator, you're going to have to put it on the floor. And you cannot use a calculator for the first part of the exam. So the first 40 minutes of the exam, no calculators are allowed. So you're gonna go through the first 40 minutes without a calculator. What does that kind of mean? Well, you have this first section, section A. You can see there's some graphing questions, kind of equation of a line stuff, slope, y-intercept, solve a system of equations, cost, dollars. I don't want to spend a ton of time going through this, but there's kind of a variety of questions. Let's see how many there are on this exam. And you can see there's 12 questions on this exam. 12 questions where you're not allowed to use your calculator. So for the first 40 minutes, you have to answer these first 12 questions. After 40 minutes, the section A of your exam, it goes away. You don't have access to it anymore. So for 40 minutes, no calculator, you have section A, 12 questions to answer. Now, if you answer them all in like 20 minutes, you can't pick up your calculator and go on to the next section. What you have to do is you can move on in the exam to section B, but you just can't use your calculator until the 40 minutes is up. So it's kind of a bit weird. You sit there, you got 40 minutes to answer the first 12 questions with no calculator. You have to answer them in the first 40 minutes. It's not like you can go back to them later. So kind of think about it as a 40-minute test at the beginning of your test. You have 40 minutes to answer 12 questions. At the end of 40 minutes, that section goes away. You can't access it anymore. And then you go on to section B. Like I said, if you finish early, you can continue on to section B, but you just don't have a calculator yet, which is fine because a lot of this stuff, there'll be a lot of questions that don't need a calculator to answer them. So 40 minutes is up. They'll say, okay, please put away section A. You'll submit section A, and then you're allowed to pick up your calculator off the ground. Now you're on to section B. Section B, you can see the instructions here. If there's some time left, you have 2 options. Make sure you've answered all the questions. You'll not be able to go back to this section. And you may proceed to the rest of the exam without the use of a calculator. There are many questions that don't require it. There you go. So at the end of 40 minutes, the supervisor is going to say, okay, you can pick up your calculators, and then you can use your calculator to answer your questions. So for this, it says 42 marks, so it's 42 questions. This is section B, and it suggests 75 minutes, so that's an hour and 15. But at this point, it doesn't really matter because you have the rest of the time to answer the rest of the questions. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but you can see it continues on at question 13. So you went from 12, and then section B starts at 13. There's some graphing here, table of values stuff, points, domain range, function questions, calculate the slope. So all stuff we've done. And if students generally get really freaked out about provincial exams. The point of a provincial exam isn't to like stress you out and, humiliate you with these difficult questions. They just want to know, we want to know as teachers, and the province wants to know if you know your stuff. So there's questions like this. Number 16 here is just calculate the slope given these 2 points. So that's pretty straightforward. You go to your slope equation off your formula sheet and you calculate the slope. There's nothing difficult about this question. As long as you know how to calculate the slope, it's an easy mark. So going through this, there's a few questions like this. Use a ruler to determine the slope of the roof as shown below. So on your formula sheet, there is a ruler that's printed onto your formula sheet. So you're going to have your formula sheet with you. You're going to put it up to your computer monitor with your little ruler, and you're going to measure the length of the roof. You need to know the length of the slope here, the rise, and then you're going to go down here and run, and you have the slope as rise over run, and there you go. You can find the slope from there. So you're going to have to actually use the ruler off of your data booklet. You're going to have to, pick it up and physically measure your screen on your computer, which seems kind of weird. That's the way she goes. So there's tricky questions like this one. And then, what's the cost of hiring an electrician for 8 hours? We've done questions like this in class. It's stuff that you've done before. And there's some really easy questions. And then on every exam, there's probably 2 or 3 questions that are like really hard. And the way that I think of them is it separates the 100% students from the like 95% students. It's just a reality. There's going to be a few questions, and the ones, I don't know what they're going to be, and even for me, I'm like, this really makes me think. So there's always a couple questions like that I've never seen before, and it's just the reality of it. What units that we've done will be on this. We've done all the units, so 1 through 7. We have to do 8 still, and every unit's on it. So it's 1 through 8. Everything's kind of not divided equally, but every sort of unit, everything we've done is fair game for the test. I have no idea what the test is. I don't get to see it at all. Even when you guys are writing it, I'm not supposed to be able to see the exam. So it's kind of a bit of me hoping that you guys prepared well, and I'm going to prepare you well. You guys are going to do great on this exam because it's stuff you've done before. And there's a lot of straightforward questions that you're going to get right. And there might be a few tricky ones that you kind of worry about, but that's just the reality of it. There's going to be some hard stuff on it. Can I show you the tricky ones? I will show you the tricky ones. We'll go through a couple exams before the actual date, so don't worry about it. We're going to spend lots of time. We're going to start Unit 8 today, kinda, Bria. I'm going to explain that in a little bit. So there's 20. I'm just going to kind of flip through here. I know I'm going through this fast. I didn't want to spend time going through it today, but just give you an idea. Linear equation, you guys have done all this stuff. Graphing stuff, equation stuff. So I'm going to plug my way down to the bottom. End of section B. Where are you? You can see this is what the algebra tile sort of questions will look like on the exam. I mentioned that it's fair game for them to ask you questions involving algebra tiles. Generally, they'll be expanding type questions. Very rarely will you end up with a factoring type question using algebra tiles, but this is what they will appear like. So they'll give you kind of a couple of equations and say what is the proper multiplication, things like that. There is questions from Unit 8 on this exam that I'm looking at right now. But that's just kind of, I want you guys to start preparing for it. So you can see the caliper question. Guarantee you'll have one of those. There's a few things that always show up on every exam, and then there's kind of a few kind of, bonus type questions that are kind of catch you off base. So stuff we did at the beginning, finding the area, volume of shapes, and there you go. Cones, nets. Now this is Unit 8 stuff, so this is stuff we haven't done yet, and yeah, so I won't spend too much time talking about it. Okay, so that's the end of part B. Alex is asking how big of this is. 20% of your grade, so everything that we've done in class counts for 80%, and then this one exam is 20%. So there's sort of no time for part B. You just finish part B when you can, and then you move on to part C. You can see part C looks a little bit different again. Now you guys will be doing this on a computer, so you'll actually be typing the numbers in, but this is the idea. So it's a numerical response section. You're actually putting numbers in instead of just multiple choice. You're going to enter a number. And it's really important, just like when you guys are writing the quizzes and tests online, that you follow the instructions very carefully, because a computer is grading this, and a computer isn't sympathetic to you making a simple error in terms of a sign, or writing a number in wrong, or spacing your number out incorrectly, or things like that. So this is what it looks like. There's going to be a bunch of boxes for you to write your numbers in, and there's going to be a plus or minus symbol in the front that you're going to have to click on to indicate if the number you've entered is negative or positive. Now, if you do not put in negative or positive, it assumes it to be positive. So the only time you really need to put in negative is if the number is negative. If it's a positive answer, your answer is like 12.3 positive, you can just write 12.3 and then move on. You don't have to click the positive button, but if you do, it'll be positive. So that's kind of that. So it's going to look a little bit different because you guys are doing it online, but this is kind of the idea of this section, where you're going to come up with an answer and you're going to have to put in the numerical value. So it gives you an example here. Leave unused boxes blank. For example, negative 70.2, you highlight the negative box, little negative radio button here, and you go 70, then you have the decimal point, and then 2. If your answer is 4, you can leave both of these blank, and it'll assume it to be positive, or you can select the positive, and then 4 will be your answer. This is an interesting thing that kind of happens. If you end up with an answer as a fraction, you're going to have to actually go 2 divided by 3 is 0.66666. And you're going to have to go, okay, there's only 2 boxes. I'm going to have to round to the last box, so it's 0.67. And because it's positive, I can leave it blank, or I can select the positive. So this is kind of it doesn't happen. Most of the questions are set up to have a decimal answer or a whole number answer. But if you end up with a fraction because maybe you did a question a different way, then you're going to have to actually calculate what that fraction equals and put it in the boxes. All right, so this is what the section looks like. Given the graph g of t, determine the value of t. So this is just a whole number answer. It says answer as an integer, so you're going to look at the graph. It says g of t is negative 3, so it's y is negative 3. You're going to go, and then, okay, what's x? Okay, x looks like it's whatever. And you're going to record your answer neatly on the answer sheet. You guys will be on the computer. 56, solve for x. So it's just the same questions you've been doing, except when you get an answer, it's a number. Instead of going, okay, A says the answer is 7, you're just going to write in 7. So that's the first 2. So solving a system of equations is number 57. 58 is a factoring question. 59, convert pounds to kilograms, so fairly straightforward. And then this last one's a trigonometry question. And there you go. So that is the exam. 60 questions. The first 12 are done without a calculator. The rest you can use a calculator. And then the last, I didn't even count how many it was. What do we have here? 55. So the last 5 questions are numerical answer. And there you go. So the examination rules are here if you want to read them. You have 2 hours, you get an additional 60 minutes. You can write on the test. You guys will have some scrap paper at your desks when you're doing this on the computers, your laptops. You don't bring your own laptop, they'll be provided for you because the ones at the school will connect to the internet. Stop writing at the end of the exam. No using inappropriate language. That's more for an English exam because you can write. When you're done the exam, you aren't expected to stay, but you have to stay for an hour. So if you somehow manage to finish all 60 questions in an hour, which is astonishing, you guys will be well prepared and that probably won't happen. You know, an hour and a half, 2 hours is probably normal. Some students take a bit longer, which is fine. You have 3 hours, so you just need to mind your time. But don't be scared of the time. The exam isn't meant to take, it's 60 questions. If you think, okay, if I take 2 minutes per question, some are going to be longer, some are going to be, like 3 or 4 seconds, just going to be sort of a definition type thing. Then you can just, circle that bubble. Okay, that one only took me 10 seconds. I had 2 minutes. The next one may take me 5 minutes. That's fine. It all evens out at the end. So it's designed to take 2 hours. You can see here that this formula sheet's included the same as the one that you guys had in the class. This will be printed and provided for you when you sit down at your computer. So you can write all over it if you want. Here's the ruler that I mentioned before. You're going to actually have to fold the edge of that page down and take your ruler out and measure things on your screen. It looks really funny. I've done it before where you see a bunch of students, and generally students kind of progress at the same sort of rate. So everybody gets the question, 15, and it's use the ruler, and you see everybody break out their data booklet ruler, and everyone in the gym is measuring their page. It looks kind of funny, but there you go. Formulas that we've looked at. There's another ruler there. One's in inches. Make sure you don't mix up the inches ruler with the metric ruler here. You can see at the bottom of this guy, it says centimeters. And this guy says inches. So it's important to remember what the question's asking, if it's asking for imperial or metric, and then use the correct ruler. There's some graphs if you want to do some graphing, 4 graphs. If you want extra paper, you just need to raise your hand, ask. If you need to go to the washroom, just raise your hand, ask. You have to stay for an hour. If you show up more than 30 minutes late, you won't be allowed in, and then you have 3 hours. So that's the exam. Does anybody have any questions? I know I kind of whipped through it. I didn't want to spend time looking at the actual questions. I wanted to make you aware of what the layout of the exam looks like. So hopefully you kind of a bit at ease with what this is going to look like. The questions aren't all difficult. They are very straightforward. They just want to know if you know your stuff. And that's basically kind of it. Generally, students on any exam, not provincial exams, not just exams in general that are final, students don't do as well as they did throughout the course. There's just all of that material on one test, which is kind of hard. So you're gonna, when I was at OKM last time I taught Math 10, there was a student in, not my class, but another class that got 100% on the exam. It's possible. It's not like you just can't do it. I've had a student get 100% on the science exam as well. And it happens every year. Students get 100%. So it's possible that you know all the material. It's just kind of the reality of what it is. It's a lot of stuff on one test. Ava's asking, will we go over this more? Yes, Ava, I promise you I will go through at least one exam, question by question with you guys, possibly 2 if we have time. Taylor, where do you go for the exam? We're gonna figure that out. Probably to a school close to you down on the coast. We'll arrange to have your exam sent there. And then, since this exam is 20% of our grade, if we get 50 on it, will our grade go up by 10%? 0.2, 50%, yes, that's correct. it doesn't quite work that way because you have 80%, so 0.8 times your in-class grade, and then 0.2 times your exam grade. The magic number is 62.5%. If you are going into the exam with 62.5%, you can get 0 on the exam and still pass the course with 50%. So that's kind of the magic number, as I say. Most of you guys are well above that 62.5. A few of you are kind of hovering around it. So with these last couple weeks, I'd like everybody to maybe redo a test, maybe resubmit something or submit something you hadn't submitted and get your grade up above that 62.5. Then the exam really means nothing, which is kind of a good feeling to go into the exam with. You just do your best, answer the questions the best you can, and then the exam, it could bring your mark down, but it's not going to bring it down to a fail. And I know that every one of you can go into this exam and get at least 50%. Like, it's not a fear of mine that that won't happen. The exam is fair. There's very straightforward questions on it. There's very difficult questions on it. The amount of difficult questions is like, 1 or 2. The straightforward questions is, like at least 30 of the questions are going to be fairly basic, as long as you know your stuff. Abby, you raised an excellent point. When you get to the final exam, all of the questions, all of the units are all in one exam, right? So it's not like this is from unit 1, this is from unit 8. You need to kind of recognize what unit it's from and figure out how to solve it based on the stuff from that unit. And remember, there's no rule that says, okay, in unit 7 we did this question this way. If you can do that question, doesn't matter how you're doing it, it's a multiple choice exam, and at the worst it's the numerical answer. If you're getting the right answer, it doesn't matter how you got there. They can get around it a few different ways by asking you to follow steps that somebody's written down on the page. If it's like a solve by elimination, they'll give you a series of steps and ask, where is the error in this solving by elimination? So they can get around it that way. But there you go. Heard grade 11 and 12 are more important, though, Taylor. Yeah, generally speaking, not a lot of universities, if you choose to go that route, are going to look at your grade 10 exam grades. It's just they're more interested in, when you guys are in high school, you grow so much as individuals between grade 10 and 12. Like, there's just, your brain gets so much better and you're so much smarter by the end of it all, and you've got things figured out generally. So you don't really need to worry about this exam. You guys are going to do great on it. There's nothing to be scared of. You've made it this far, you'll do fine. So that's the exam. I wanted to make sure everyone was kind of familiar with the layout, what it's going to look like. And I'm going to include this exam A. It's off the Provincial Ministry of Education website, but I'm going to include it in the course. And I'd like for you guys to kind of maybe plug your way through it. If not, maybe have a look at it today. That would be kind of my goal. Just look at it. I don't want you to, spend 3 hours writing the answers to all the questions. I just want you to look through it. And I know after the first time students have looked through a math exam, they're like, wow, that wasn't so bad. I remembered how to do a lot of those questions. There's a few that you don't remember how to do, but you can go back and look at it and, relearn it and review, and stuff's going to help with that. So that's kind of one thing I'd like you to do for homework today is spend, 20 minutes looking through the exam. I don't want you to sit down and answer all the questions. All I want you to do is say, do I know how to do this question or not? That's it. Do I remember what the section was? Do I remember how to solve a system of equations? Do I remember, how to find the volume of a square-based pyramid? Things like that. Yeah, I got to look at the formula sheet. The formula's there. Slant height I need the Pythagorean theorem to get there. Just stuff like that. Just in your brain. One thing about this part of the year review is you need to be really honest with yourself. If you get to a question that you don't know how to do, avoiding it isn't going to help you. You're going to have to say, okay, well, this is from this section, and I can go back and look and review, and oh, here's a really similar question. Let's see how we did this. Stuff like that. So you just need to be honest with yourself. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to have to review it. If you are really good at something, solving systems of equations, we just finished that. You're really good at that, then don't spend a ton of time reviewing stuff that you're really good at already. If you've done well on that section, you put lots of effort into it already, then don't worry about it too much. How do I calculate my grade in math right now? Because it doesn't actually say it. I'm not sure why it wouldn't say it. It should say it. It should be F&P Math 10 course total, and it should have your grade there. So I don't know what that is. I can send you your grade later if you can't figure it out. If you haven't written the Unit 7 test, it's counting as a 0, so that might be a problem. There you go. So let's worry about your grades later. Doesn't matter for now. Once you've finished everything and caught up at the end of Unit 8, once all your tests have been written, then you can sit down and say, okay, what's my grade? What am I going into this test with? Maybe you want to redo a test and improve your grade that way. That's fine. We'll figure that out later. But for now, I said 0 out of 100? Okay. Well, I'll see if I can go fix it. Maybe I can get you guys' grades to read a little bit better. So 20 minutes today. I'm going to end class a little bit early today, so you'll have 20 minutes at the end. I want you to just look through the exam and just look at the questions. Read each question. That's all I'm asking. Yes, I know how to do it. No, I don't know how to do it. I don't want you to answer them. Although if you wanted to answer them, if I go back to the ministry website, you can see sample exam A is here, and then the answer key for the exam is right next to it. So you can download the answer key for that exam. And then it says, question 1, response A, and then it says mark 1, and everything's multiple choice. This PLO is saying what section it came from, so you can look and see which one has the most questions from each section. It's pretty well broken down into units, so like unit A and B and C, and then you can see sort of the numerical response questions. I would strongly encourage you to not rely on the answer key when you're going through the exam. Do the exam first and then check your answers at the end. This comes back to being honest with yourself about the exam. You don't want to go through an exam to find out how much you know and don't know and which sections you need to review more or don't need to review by looking at the answer key. If you're like, I think it's A, but it could be C, and then you kind of peek at the answer, you're like, oh, it was A, I was right. And then you circle A, well, you didn't really know the answer, so that question is something you need to review a little bit. So 20 minutes of your day doing that. Straightforward? I hope so. Unit 8, before the break, Mr. Ross and myself, we pre-recorded all of the lessons. So this is Unit 8. We just sat down one day. Now the videos are a bit long. They're like 20 to 30 minutes long, but they're in the course. So I guess it's called flip model, where you watch the lesson first, and then afterwards you go in and do the questions. So basically what you're going to do is there's 3 sections. This first section is right triangles. Then you have a section on the sine ratio, and the cosine ratio is also in there. So there's the cosine ratio down there. And then the last one's doing problems with right triangles. So there you go. And then there's the learning guide submission and Unit 8 exam. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to get you guys to watch this video today as well. I'll give you some time here in the class at the end. And I want you to watch this, be 20 minutes or so. The lessons are all printed off just like normal. The only thing that's different is you're not watching the lesson live. If you have a question, what we're going to do is in tomorrow's class, I'm going to spend a whole hour just answering your questions about this lesson. So I'm going to go through some of the supplemental practice questions, and that's what we're going to do for the next few days. So I want you to watch the lesson, and then in class tomorrow, we're going to go through the problems together. And then for the next section, you're going to watch the lesson, Tuesday night, and then in Wednesday's class, we're going to go through the questions together. The next section, you're going to do the same thing. So the learning guide's there, the lessons are all there. We're flipping it. We're doing it backwards. Instead of doing the homework at home by yourself, you're going to watch the lesson at home by yourself and do the questions in class with me. So we're going to spend Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday doing those 3 lessons. That's it for Unit 8, just 3 lessons. So that kind of wraps up the course. So I wanted to kind of ease back into things. I would like you guys to go through, firstly, the provincial exam. And I want you guys to make sure you've just read through the questions. The second thing you need to do is watch this lesson, Unit 8, Lesson 1, built right into the course. Not the learning guide, but the lessons are all there to print. You go through it, do it step by step with me, just like you would live. And then in class tomorrow, instead of me doing a lesson, we're just going to look at the questions and make sure we answer them. Sorry, I didn't load chat into the background because there's a lot of headaches this morning. Mr. Ross's first name is not Bob, no, although Bob Ross is a pretty interesting guy. We'll be doing our learning guide together, kind of like that. I'll do a few questions from the learning guide and a few of the supplemental questions from the course. So I'm not just going to do the learning guide for you. I'm going to do a few similar questions from the course, and then you guys will have the chance to do a learning guide. If you have questions from the learning guide, I'll definitely help you with them though. So you're going to watch the lesson today, and if you want to go into the learning guide and look at the first section of the learning guide, you can. But I'm going to go over the questions in class tomorrow. So in class tomorrow, instead of me going through a lesson, I'm going to go over the answers to the questions with you. We're going to work through some problems together instead of, giving you guys a lesson. So you're going to do the learning guide. You're going to submit it just like always. But we're going to have just time in class to go through it. Will science be similar? Science is going to be a bit different. We're going to do a few more projects. It's kind of going to be a bit of a mix between what English has been like and what math's been like. So there's a lot of material to get through, but we're going to have some projects along the way. We probably won't have class every day like we've been doing with math. And we'll have learning guides, I think, and tests similar to what we've been doing. And there you go. So Abby and other hard workers, don't look at the exam and then, come back and watch this lesson and then go through all of the first section of the learning guide. That's just too much. What I want you to do today, I'm going to give you some time. We'll check in at the end of the block here. I want to give you guys some time to look over the provincial exam. And then after I've given you that time, maybe 25, 30 minutes, I want to come back, and then I want everyone to just kind of talk about the exam. Things that they found interesting, difficult, maybe a question you want to look at, you didn't know what section it was from, something like that. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to actually look at the exam, exam A. And then for homework, I want you to watch this lesson 1 from Unit 8. And then in class tomorrow, we're going to spend an hour going through the problems from that section. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So Avery, it's an excellent question. After Unit 8, we're going to spend a lot of time preparing for the provincial. Yes, the Unit 8 is 3 lessons. So we have Lesson 1, we're going to talk about tomorrow. Lesson 2 is on Wednesday, Lesson 3 is on Thursday, and that's it for Unit 8. So that gives us 2 full weeks of review, preparation for the provincial exam. I will guarantee I will go through an exam question by question with you guys. I'm going to talk about the tricks. On provincial exams, there's always, not always, 99% of the time there's an opportunity to eliminate 2 answers if you know just a teensy bit. So if you really don't know how to do something, you can get rid of 2 of the answers usually. They just make no sense whatsoever. And then you got a 50-50 shot at it if you have to guess, sort of thing. So we'll go through an exam. It looks like we have some time. I'm going to get Mr. Ross to put up 25 minutes. So what I want you guys to do in the next 25 minutes is to look at exam A. So I don't have it in the course, and I apologize for that. So what you're going to have to do is click on the link in the course up at the top. Sorry. Click here. it's going to take you to the ministry website. You're going to find sample exams. You're going to go grade 10. You're going to agree, and then search. And then you want Foundations of Math Pre-Calculus 10, get exams. And then down here at the bottom, sample A is what you're going to do. And in a few minutes, we're going to meet back. We're going to talk a little bit about exam A. And then for homework, you guys are going to watch the lesson from Unit 8, Lesson 1. So I'll see you guys back in a few minutes, and we'll go from there. Thanks. Hi guys, welcome back. Hopefully you're still with me. I know 25 minutes is probably a long time to go through that exam, just like looking at 60 questions, but if you spent a couple minutes on each question, hopefully you would have maybe got an idea a little bit. Can you give me a green check just to make sure I know who's with me, who's not? And then if you had any questions about anything on the exam, specific to perhaps a question, maybe the general layout or anything like that, you wanted to throw it into chat and ask away, I would love to talk about the exam just a little bit more now that you've had a chance to look at it. If you guys are like, well, there's nothing but for me to just review, then that's all good too. I mean, if you just need to go back and look at some of the stuff. Basically, what I want to maybe start doing a little bit, I know we have 3 classes left of the unit we're on, but I want review to not take place the night before the exam. I want to kind of spread it out a little bit. Now, Abby, I might not have time. Well, I would love to just go through the exam question by question, but that's not going to work. Which pattern could be used to predict 3 to the negative 4? Ooh. See, this is one of these questions where you're like, I've never really seen anything like that before. I'm thinking it's an exponent law question, if I were to just guess. So I see a negative exponent, so I know if I go 1 over 3 to the power of 4, I've gotten rid of the negative. And then if I'm thinking about 1 over 3 to the power of 1, 1 over 3 to the power of 2, it's 1 over 9. 1 over 3 to the power of 3 is 1 over 27. I would go something like that, perhaps, to kind of look at that type of question. Again, this is one of these questions where I've never seen anything like this before. I can use information that I know, like exponent laws, to maybe kind of pick away at it, but it's not going to be a question that you've absolutely seen before, and it's just one of these things. So 3 to the negative 2 is 1 over 9, 3 to the negative 2 is 1 over 27. I mean, A is looking good. What I also mentioned about, I would guess A. I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but I would guess that one. What I was saying about knowing just a little bit of information can eliminate 2 questions, and this is a classic example of that. I know when I have a negative exponent, I take the reciprocal to get the answer. So this is the trick. The common mistake a student will make is, okay, I have a negative exponent, therefore my number must be negative. So if I look at B and D and C for that matter, I see I have all these negative numbers. Well, where did those come from? They're trying to test not necessarily if you know what 3 to the negative 4 is, but it's one of these things that's testing, do you know your exponent laws? Now, this is kind of a bit of a silly example, but I look at all of the answers here, and everything except for A has a negative number in it. So if I knew just a little bit, I know I have a negative exponent, that's the reciprocal, I'm not going to deal with negative numbers. I don't even need to really think beyond that one piece of information, and I can see automatically that C has negative numbers in it, so I know it's not C. D has negative numbers in it, I know it's not D. And B has negative numbers in it, so I know it's not B. So I don't even need to really think about a pattern or think about what are the questions asking. I just know a little bit. Negative exponent doesn't give me a negative number. That's the one piece of information I need to answer this question, and I can eliminate 3 answers. So this one's kind of a bit unusual. Normally they'd give you probably 2 with negative numbers in it, but this one you get 3. So you just say, okay, well it's not B, C, or D because those are all negatives, so it has to be A. But again, a question I've never seen before, one that you've likely never seen before either. There's going to be a few that are kind of out of left field a little bit, and you just kind of do your best with them. Is there anything else from the exam that you kind of didn't get or unsure of, a question you didn't really understand what section it came from? How much is 9E63? I'm going to guess, Alex, that is perhaps your calculator showing you scientific notation. What that means is a 9 with 63 zeros after it, so it's a really big number. It would be like 9 times 10 to the 63. I'm not sure, because E is actually a mathematical operation as well, so it just might be how your calculator is showing it. That if you have maybe an older, a small scientific calculator, it's probably indicating that, which means you did something wrong, likely, and you're inputting it, because that's a really big number. So that's it. One question from that whole exam, 25 minutes. That's fine. I mean, I didn't ask you to go through any of the questions, but just kind of look at stuff that was maybe a little bit confusing. I'm happy with that, if you guys are happy with that. Remember, as I mentioned before, what I would like you guys to do for homework is go into the course, go down to Unit 8, and print off the lessons and the learning guide. So all of the Unit 8 learning guide, all of the Unit 8 lessons are all there. Go through the first with the printout, and that's kind of what I want you guys to do tonight. When we come to class tomorrow, I'm going to first answer any questions you had about the lesson that was in the course, and then I'm going to go through just examples with you guys and make sure we're kind of understanding with this trigonometry stuff. So maybe just quickly so I know, how many of you guys looked through in grade 9 with your grade 9 teacher any of the trig functions, sine, cosine, or tangent? Have you seen those before? You want to give me a green check if you've maybe seen them before? Usually people have seen them, and a couple have, a couple haven't. Sometimes grade 9 teachers will go through all the trig functions, and sometimes they just won't. So Abby's probably have. I don't see a ton of green check marks, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They're on your calculator too. So it's all good. Sometimes students have seen them. And if you're not sure, it's likely that you haven't. I'm going to go through it like you haven't, so don't worry about it. It's just interesting for me to sometimes know what you guys have seen and what you haven't. So there you go. A couple of you have. Perfect. There's always a few that have. Some grade 9 teachers include it and some don't. It's all good. If you haven't seen it, we're going to start like you know nothing starting today. I don't know if Mr. Beetlestone did it or not. I haven't had an opportunity to ask him, so I will just assume he did not, because it's not in the grade 9 curriculum. And it's supposed to be learned in grade 10, but sometimes grade 9 teachers do it. So I'm going to leave you guys there for now. Just watch the video, go through the worksheet along with it, and then we're going to answer some questions in class tomorrow, and that's going to kind of be it. Mrs. Wood is on for ADC after this. She's not going to be in the studio, so you don't need the live feed. You just need to sign into her Blackboard classroom. She's going to teach from there, and I will see you guys tomorrow. So have a lovely afternoon. Looks like the snow has subsided a little bit downtown. Hopefully it's snowing where you are. Nice and snowy. I like the snow. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.